Alex Anthopoulos addressed the media last night to explain why the Braves did not make a trade at the deadline. Here's what he said. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Friday, August 1st, your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsey Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. Those of you watching on YouTube, you may see up here in the upper corner, there is now a FanDuel logo. Braves Today is now brought to you by FanDuel. We are proudly part of the Believe Podcast Network. This is a partnership between FanDuel, between Braves Today, and between the Believe Podcast Network. But they are now the presenting sponsor of the show. We're excited to have them aboard. We're going to be doing, try to find good, intelligent ways to integrate some of the information and the fantastic statistics and research that they have into our show. So stay tuned for that. Really excited about some of the possibilities coming up on this. We're going to get to Drake Baldwin and Rookie of the Year because AA kind of addressed that last night. We're going to get to, does Ronald Acuña Jr. come back from injury or not? But I want to talk about the trade deadline. We went live last night, and of course, I thought we were going to have some trades come through, and none of them did. And it was a little bit of an emotional show. I'll admit, I was a little bit frustrated, and I ended up, it was a little bit of ranty, and there wasn't a lot of information coming our way as to what happened. Alex Anthopoulos talked to the media last night, so I've got some clips of Alex Anthopoulos answering some questions about what happened. And I think the biggest takeaway from his comments and the way that he presented everything, and even more so than usual, Alex was very diligent about not singling out any specific player on the roster, which if it makes sense, they're still on the roster. It makes sense you wouldn't talk about them in depth. He didn't discuss any specific team or what specific asks were. He just discussed the fact that Atlanta was looking to trade these guys, and it didn't happen. And if you listen to this first clip, it really sounds like there just weren't a lot of teams that wanted our pending free agents.
But we weren't just going to give players away, move guys just to move them or just to dump salary. That happens at times at trade deadlines. We've been part of just teams wanting to save money at the deadline, and we would take on a contract. We were not in that position. That's not something we were going to do. If we were going to move any player, so I'm not speaking about Marcel or anybody, we were going to have to get something back that we liked. And look, and I'm speaking for the 26-man roster. Again, I'm stating, obviously, that some guys are just not having the years that they've had in the past. So that would ultimately, goes without saying, would impact the interest level and the inquiries. So again, I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not specifying anybody. I want to be very, very clear on that. But you can give players away at any time. But I don't know that makes the organization better unless your alternative is to just save money. So that wasn't something that we were going to do. We were going to have to get something we like back. We were never, in our view, we were never put in that position leading up to 6 o'clock tonight.
It is very abundantly clear from what he is delicately dancing around that there wasn't really a market for Marcel Ozuna. There wasn't really a market for Raisel Iglesias. And these two guys are in different buckets. Let's be clear with this. These two guys are in different situations. Marcel Ozuna, 1, can block a trade. He's got 10-5 rights. And some of the news that was leaking during the week, I think Bob Nightingale was the one who had this, was that Ozuna would waive the 10-5 rights to a team that was willing to promise him every day or almost every day playing time. So he wasn't necessarily interested in moving to be a part-time player. He also has not been very good. He has no defensive value. And we have to acknowledge he has had off-the-field concerns. There was the domestic violence incident. There was also a DUI incident. And while Braves fans, for the most part, have moved on from that, there is some fan bases, or I guess there is some teams and owners in baseball who would worry about acquiring Ozuna and having to relitigate some of that stuff in the media and in the fan base. Okay? So he's in a different situation from Raisel Iglesias. Like, yes, the surface numbers for Raisel Iglesias are the worst since 2019, but he's been pretty good recently. Again, 4 of his 5 runs that he's allowed since being demoted in early June were all in that Yankees game on that grand slam. All of his inputs, his peripherals, all that stuff, give the look of a guy who's a mid-threes reliever with closing experience. It just feels like, given some of the returns you got, Taylor Rogers going to the Mets, some of those guys, given the returns some of these guys got, it feels like Iglesias should have gotten something. And AA kind of clarified without, again, nothing was clear in this. We're all reading the implications here. But he kind of implied without implying that he really tried, but there just wasn't a team willing to pull the trigger on a deal for either guy. Here's the clip.
Well, you need 2 parties, right? You need 2 people, and you need people. So I'm trying to stay respectful to everybody here, but without getting real specific, he's on the team. I guess what I can tell you is, trying to be as forthcoming about being respectful too to all parties, but I can't make a trade. I can't create one.
I can't make a trade. I can't create one. It takes 2 parties to make a deal. It is very, very abundantly clear that the market wasn't there. And money was part of this. I thought I had this clip. I apparently didn't clip it before I hit record. But there's a quote from AA at a different point in the larger trade conversation. Because you heard him say the Braves weren't motivated by dumping salary. They wanted something that would make the 2026 roster better. So they're looking for a major leaguer, a AAA guy, somebody with options. Tyler Kinley has a club option for next year. They were looking for something like that. Here's the quote. There were financial implications that were clearly a big part of moves on the other side. Emphasis mine. And again, I don't want to speak for the other clubs at the time, but it was pretty obvious at the time that, hey, financially, being able to save dollars and things like that were a strong part of the motivation. I do have a little bit of an issue here with the way that this is characterized. Because AA kind of, the insinuation here, because again, none of this is clear. The insinuation here is that the combination of the poor performance from these guys, combined with the money owed, $16 million contracts for both of them, so the remaining salary is about $5 million for the rest of the season for both. The insinuation here is that the combination of salary owed and past performance meant that those guys were not going to get any sort of return that would help next year. And what is kind of not said, it sounds like there's 2 options, right? There is those teams take the player in the salary, or those players stay in Atlanta. The middle ground here, obviously, is Atlanta paying those salaries to send those players. And what we don't really know, was Atlanta offering to pay these salaries down? To get a better return. And because we all know that's the way you can do this. Weeks ago, we identified, hey, you already budgeted the full 16 for Iglesias. You already budgeted the full 16 for Ozuna. You mean to tell me that nobody would take Raisel Iglesias and $4.5 million of his $5 million deal to give you a player, to give you a prospect? Nobody? Not a single person would say, yeah, we'll give you a player to pay Raisel Iglesias $500,000 for 2 months, plus the postseason. Inexplicable to me. So we don't know if they offered to do that or not. But clearly, none of the deals happened. Again, very frustrating. and we were a little bit emotional about it last night on the show, on the live show. So I wanted to come out and do another extra episode here and play his comment so you can actually hear what he said. Again, I wrote up a longer form version of this over on bravestoday.com. Free to everybody. And again, premium subscribers to Braves Today got a transcript of these comments in their inboxes last night. So if you're interested in hearing what AA says on the regular, things like that may interest you, bravestoday.com, paid subscriptions, those folks got that last night. In just a second, I want to talk about what AA said about Marcel Ozuna's playing time and how it impacts Drake Baldwin, as well as Ronald Acuña Jr. returning from injury. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Encase Cards, custom card manufacturer. I love this company and what they do. You upload your photo. I used it for the youth cards for my kids. My son played t-ball. My daughter played soccer. We went to Encase Cards, uploaded their photos. We got to choose the background, holographic effects, all that stuff. Their designers went in and put in positions, demographic info, all of that stuff, just like a standard baseball card. They printed it in a high quality cardstock. They slabbed it and they stuck it in a case with a little stand built in so we can put it on the dresser. I have my son's baseball card right here on my desk. I would have my daughter's too. It's not showing favorites. She wanted to keep that in her room. But there's a ton of uses for this. Maybe your kid got moved from teams at the trade deadline. Maybe your son or daughter went from the Angels and T-ball to the Marlins and coach pitch, and you want to have their new team reflected. You can do that. You can go in. This is the time for fantasy football drafts. It's a great thing for a fantasy football team. The winner gets a card. The loser gets a card. Memorialize how bad they are. We're doing that in my league this year. So maybe your family moved to a new city. Hey, tons of reasons you can go out and do these. I've seen these done as party favors. I've seen these done for family members as Christmas gifts. Like the grandparents think these things are just the best. Getting the trading card of their grandkid playing U Sports. Tons of stuff like that. So go to ncasecards.com, ncasecards.com. Promo code Braves Today, hashtag Braves Today, gets you $5 off of your order. Again, ncasecards.com, promo code Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsey Crosby. I want to talk about some of the other things that come in the end of that came at the end of that press conference. The way that these kind of happen is they start off with a specific topic. In this case, the trade deadline. Most of the questions were about that. But we kind of got a little bit more. They talked about Drake Baldwin a little bit in the context of Marcel Ozuna still here. He's going to be your designated hitter. As well as they talked about Ronald's return from injury. So on the Drake Baldwin stuff, here is what AA said about Marcel Ozuna playing every day going forward.
Alex, do you think you mentioned the 10-5 with Marcel? Do you think he understands he could be a bench player for 2 months heading into free agency?
Look, I think Marcel, the one thing about him, he's been an amazing teammate. He's gone through a lot here, right? And he has been a model teammate. He really has. He's gone through not playing as much, playing a ton. Snit, I've told Snit this all the time, to his credit. That April, he was struggling, which was arguably one of the worst Aprils in the history of baseball. And then he came back and hit 40 home runs in 5 months and had a 900 OPS. Snit stuck with him. So Snit has the lineup card. He always has. He plays who he wants to play. Obviously, he's managing Murph, Baldwin, and Marcel. And obviously, Marcel's in the lineup today. Those are decisions that Snit makes. Murph and Baldwin got hot, and they started playing. Marcel played less. And now in the last week, I guess, 4 or 5 days, Marcel's gotten a few more starts. That's Snit making those calls. So, look, I think Marcel's always been a consummate pro. I think the one thing about Snit, if you look at my 8th season with him, he's been in the role longer than that. I think this is his 10th as the manager. The one thing about Snit is he's been consistent about playing guys. So we've had players lose playing time. Jock Peterson lost playing time that year. Eddie Rosario came up and played well. Sean Murphy lost playing time. Adam Duvall lost playing time. But when they're playing well, they gain playing time. So he's been very consistent as a manager, which you love. And I think that's why players love him and they respect him. He's not looking at free agency, contracts, any of that kind of stuff. He's doing what he feels is best when he puts the lineup out. And the players know that they have a question, they can walk into his office and have that conversation. He's going to shoot him straight. His intentions and his motives are always pure. He's trying to win. He's trying to put the best. And over that period of time, he's mixed and matched lineups and played guys, whether they're guys from Gwinnett, minor league free agents, whatever. He's done what he feels right.
Frustratingly, nobody kind of followed up here on the implications of playing Marcel Ozuna more over Drake Baldwin when it comes to Rookie of the Year. Again, shout out to our friends at FanDuel for this statistic and everything here. Drake Baldwin is the favorite as of Friday morning to win Rookie of the Year, minus 185 in the National League. Jacob Misiorowski of the Milwaukee Brewers is second at plus 290. But Jacob Misiorowski was selected for the All-Star game. MLB is clearly enamored with this guy. And so you run the risk of, if you're just trying to play the hot hand, instead of saying, we're going to make a little bit of a strategic decision to win, like to give Drake Baldwin every opportunity to win Rookie of the Year, you've made a mistake. Because, again, Drake Baldwin right now is batting .279 with an .817 OPS. He has 11 home runs. He's only struck out 45 times in 77 games, 258 plate appearances. He has legitimately been one of the best minor leaguers in all of baseball this year. I'm sorry, best rookies in all of baseball this year. And playing the hot hand with the goal of trying to win as many games as possible is short-sighted for two reasons. One, Rookie of the Year. What if Drake Baldwin just is the loser of that playing time thing down the stretch and he gets 5 starts in the month of September? I mean, we don't know what the playing time's going to shake out as. I'm just kind of giving a hypothetical here. And Jacob Misiorowski goes on a really good run, has a couple quality starts. These awards are voted on by individuals. Like, they're voted on by the baseball media, the BBWAA and all of that. And so because they're voted on by people, you can't always just count on the overall stats are going to be there and they're going to look at WAR and say who had more WAR, that's who wins the award, right? The moments stand out. Think about the Heisman Trophy. Everybody always talks about the Heisman moment, right? What if Drake Baldwin, from a value perspective, is more valuable than Jacob Misiorowski for the entire season on the whole? But again, Baldwin gets maybe 5 starts in the month of September, pinch hits a couple times like he did last night, while Jacob Misiorowski throws, a shutout or something. The moment's there. And if you don't play Drake Baldwin more, you don't give him the chance, 1, to get the counting stats, and 2, to create those moments that can propel him into that award. And then 2, winning as many. I'm not saying you should tank. I don't want the Braves to tank. I do a live post-game show after just about every single game. The last thing I want to do is talk about a team that lost every single game. I don't want to do that. But pushing to win is like optimizing the lineup for the sake of winning games in 25 versus optimizing the lineup to still be incredibly competitive. It's not like you're putting a bad hitter in there in Drake Baldwin, but also potentially earn a draft pick, an additional first-round pick for 2026 is a bigger deal for the organization and the franchise as a whole. So yes, Snit has the lineup card, but I really hope that Alex Anthopoulos or somebody talks to him and says, hey, we really need to get Drake Baldwin in the lineup a lot. Let him play as much as he can handle, and hopefully he can get us that prospect promotion incentive pick after the first round in next year's draft. A draft where we're probably going to have a pretty high pick, and we're probably going to have a really big draft pool because of it, so you can get another premier talent by doing this. The other big takeaways here, and a lot of credit right here goes to Zach Klein of WSB TV. He asked about Ronald Acuña Jr. And frustratingly, AA didn't answer the exact question that he was asking. But they got some more out of AA about his playing time. What Zach Klein asked, and I've heard this question from a couple different people. Shout out to Emmanuel, premium subscriber to the newsletter. He asked me this a couple days ago. Klein said, I know injuries are different, but you saw all the Achilles injuries in the NBA that kind of, he mentions Halliburton, started out with a calf strain and they rushed it back and tried to play and tore his Achilles. And AA kind of didn't, I don't know if he understood the question. He kind of was apologizing for it being characterized up front as an Achilles injury because they were going with what they initially heard from Ronald and the initial diagnosis made on the fly there and in the tunnel or in the clubhouse and all of that. But he did address, with the follow-up, is Ronald going to come back and play this year, or are they going to shut him down? Here's what AA said about when or if Ronald will return to the lineup.
Anytime someone has, it's a grade 1. So
he's healthy.
If you told me there was a week left, yeah, that'd be a consideration. But there's 2 months left. He needs to play. He needs to condition his body. At some point, he's missed so much baseball, right? When you think about it, we had the MVP season in 23, gets injured early May of 24, misses a good chunk of this season. Again, if there was a very limited amount of time, I don't know that you would rush him back or something to play for a week, but you've got 2 months left. And we'll obviously make sure he's cleared and get him checked out and so on. But look, we were so conservative with his return to play now from the ACL. We added months to what we did the first time. We added so much time. And I think that allowed him to play at such a high level when he came back. But we could have brought him back sooner even to start the year, but we just want to make sure we did it right. So we're going to be conservative. We're going to be careful. But at some point, if he's symptom free and fine, and to tell him to just, hey, sit out the next 2 months, hang out at home, I just don't think that makes any sense.
I agree with AA there. As much as I don't want Ronald to get hurt, I do think it's very, very difficult to ask Ronald to just sit out the rest of the season. Now, am I going to be aggressive with when he gets back? No. We're going to be as patient as possible with trying to make sure Ronald's at 100% and it's not even a question before we activate him. Because ultimately these games don't matter from a win-loss perspective. But it's the same thing we talked about with the pitchers, okay? These guys being able to come back during the season, if they want to, and I'm sure Ronald wants to, and pitch at a high level, gives them the confidence and the comfort of knowing that they are back and fully healthy as they enter the offseason. And again, I'll say the same thing now that I said the other day when we discussed this, and I think I said this last night when I answered a question on that live show. Chris Sale talked to us, the media, from Northport after signing the signing the extension with the team. He threw a bullpen that day, then he came in and sat down and talked to us via Zoom. He talked about how helpful it was just having a healthy offseason, right? He got back on the mound in 23 before the season ended, and he wasn't rehabbing over the winter, and he didn't have, he knew that, okay, I made it back. Now I'm just working on being the best version of myself for 24. And what happened? He won the Cy Young. And unlike a lot of people that you might be thinking about with an injury, Ronald could potentially go back and be an MVP caliber guy next year. It's a really inexplicable 1-year drop in his strikeout rate in that magical 23 season. I don't know what he did. The joke here, obviously, is that he hacked PitchCom. I don't know why it didn't carry over to 24 and 25. But he was amazing because he had the rough year in 22 returning from the ACL. And you heard AA kind of allude to this. They rushed him back from that one. He came back too quickly. He was having issues in the season. He wasn't the same guy. He had to go to DH sometimes. He had to take rest days. He had fluid buildup on the knee. But then he went to winter ball, and he looked like his old self. And so he was able to spend the rest of the offseason after winter ball was done, because that wraps up like Christmas time. He was able to spend the last 2 months of the offseason just strengthening himself, carrying the confidence that he was back. And what'd he do? He had an all-star season. Maybe going to winter ball is the difference. Maybe we need to let Ronald go to winter ball every year, and he can come back and win an MVP. So while I don't want them to rush it, right? It's not like you have to get him back for a postseason push. I do think it's okay to let Ronald come back this year. I do think within reason it's okay to let some of these pitchers come back. Joe Jimenez, yes, he's been throwing bullpens for like over a month now. Let him come back. Chris Sale is not throwing yet. None of the starting pitchers, from what I understand, with the exception of Ronaldo Lopez, are close to even throwing yet. So Chris Sale may not come back. Swellenbach may not come back. He'd be like the final week of the year anyway, given the 60-day IL placement. Grant Holmes, we're pretty sure is not coming. Same thing with AJ Smith-Shawver. He had the Tommy John, he had the elbow surgery. He's not coming back. But I do think if Ronald wants to play, and he is 100% cleared, there is zero doubt, zero discomfort. He can do everything. And I don't just mean he can run and do everything. I mean measure it. Get the force plates. Get all the stuff to make sure that he's at the same level that he is when he's fully healthy, that he was a month ago or whatever, before you say yes, bring him back, but let him come back. He wants to play. To AA's point, telling him just go sit the 2 months at home and then sit at home for the whole offseason is a terrible idea. If he wants to come back, let him come back. This has been Braves Today for Friday, August 1st. Do me a favor. If you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. You never know when we're going to go live, like we did after the trade deadline last night. Also, go subscribe over at Braves Today. Again, I wrote all of this stuff up with quotes and everything in the newsletter this morning. And again, premium subscribers last night got the transcript during, I think, the third inning of that game last night. They got the transcript of everything AA said and who asked it. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.